Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Sports Cast, where two college students discuss all things Pittsburgh sports all year round. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Chris.
and today we are very excited because we actually have a real life game to talk about. So exciting to finally see two teams that are not the same team go up against each other. Unfortunately, it didn't count yet. We have until Friday before they do start counting. But it was an exhibition game between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cleveland Indians just up the turnpike. The Indians came down here to PNC Park to mix it up with the Buccos, and it was really fun to just be able to watch a Pirates game again, huh?
Yeah, I think when we talk about exhibition games in any sport, and that's whether baseball, football, hockey, um, I think we need to be careful not to hit the panic button. Because as we'll get into, there may be a little bit of a reason to hit the panic button already. So I think it's just important as fans maybe not to hit the panic button, kind of take things with a grain of salt, kind of look at some of the performances, what were some highlights? Because I think even though the Pirates did lose the game 5-3, I think there were some positives I saw. I saw a lot of things I liked. And then we'll talk about the eighth and ninth inning.
Yeah, of course. It was but yeah, I really like how the game started. I was pleasantly surprised with how our starter kind of performed, specifically Joe Musgrove. He was looking really good yesterday. It was just it seemed like he was locating his pitches really well. He struck out the side right up the bat. Just looked like he was oozing confidence out there. I think for as far as the starting pitchers are concerned, I think everyone was just really juiced up. Not in that sense, but in the sense of getting back out there finally and finally being able to face another team for the first time in 5 months or 4 months, I think it is.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I was impressed with Chad Cool. I
yes,
thought the
most
two innings
definitely.
Chad Cool pitched, I thought were really solid. I thought he was really locating pitches, really mixing up speed. Um, the hitters really didn't seem to make solid contact when he was pitching. Stephen Brault, I think, was a little bit wild when he first came in. I believe the fourth inning. I believe he pitched the fourth and fifth. Um, I thought he was a little bit shaky. But I thought even him, towards the fifth inning, he got kind of settled down, got things under control. I don't know what your thoughts on him were, or Cole for that matter.
Yeah, I definitely have more confidence in Cool than I do in Brawl. I am kind of putting this question mark on this whole piggyback idea that Derek Shelton's been floating around. Um, right now, he says the plan going into the season is to have um, the fifth starter, quote unquote, be a combination of Chad Cool and Steven Brault, where one guy would go about 3 innings and then the second guy would go 3 or 4 innings. Uh, I'm not really digging that. I definitely think that this game and the next two should be taken into consideration before they ultimately decide to go with something like that. Because I definitely think if Cool keeps up with how he's been performing, at least obviously everything's purely reactionary. It's one game. It's a terribly small sample size, but going off of what I saw, I'm definitely more confident in Chad Cool just being a conventional fifth starter than I am handing the reins over to Brault after just 3 or so innings from Cool, especially considering how confident he is because he's been waiting even longer to get back. Of course, the Tommy John surgery forced him to miss all of last season, and now he's finally back, and we've seen so many pitchers have renewed careers after Tommy John surgery. Um, I think Cool's anxious to prove that he is one of those people. Obviously, like I said, just one game, so far. But like I said, if Cool keeps it up, and Brault doesn't step up to meet his kind of standards, if you will, I'm definitely in favor of just making Chad Cool the number 5 guy.
Who? So it's Joe Musgrove. And in case you guys haven't heard, Shelton did name the game one and game two starters, being Joe Musgrove's going to be our opening day starter, and then Trevor Williams will be day two. Who's our other two? It's Mitch Keller, and who's the fourth?
It might be because I know the piggyback at number 5, but
Right, but who's four? Or if you want to move Keller to
I actually
fourth.
might have to go to the Google, folks. Bit of broadcast difficulties over here, but
Well, I'll keep talking because I got thoughts.
yeah.
Because that's where I'm confused. Like Musgrove, okay, fine, he's probably our best. I can see that. Williams, again, our second. I can see that. But why wouldn't you, unless what he's trying to do is maybe thinking Holland for four? You kind of go Musgrove, Williams, Keller, Holland, and then
Yes,
piggyback.
I was about to say that, but you beat me to it. Derek Holland, of course, our new signing, is projected to be number 4 in the rotation.
Okay. See, I don't know because Brault has been a pirate for a hot minute now, and he's so wildly inconsistent. Like there were times where I watched Stephen Brault, I'm like, hey, there's some talent there. You know, if you could put a couple things together, I think he could be a solid 4 or 5 starter. And then there are other times where he doesn't know where the strike zone is, and he's just really wild, can't really find a strike zone. You know, heavy on the walks, and he's just an inconsistent. Like I think what I would do if I was Shelton. I would put Cool. I'm agreeing with you. I would put Cool into the fifth starting rotation, and then since you have so many extra bullpen players, this throw Brault as like either an emergency starter or like if a pitcher can only go 2 3 innings, whether because they struggled or they have an injury, and he can pitch three innings in a pinch to get you to that sixth seventh inning mark. But I don't necessarily know if I view Stephen Brault as a consistent starter.
Yeah, obviously some questionable things. Shelton's certainly. This is just a thought that popped into my head. I mean, if you really want to use the piggyback idea, I think a better candidate to partner with Brault in the piggyback kind of role would be Derek Holland, especially
Agreed.
because he's recently been more of a bullpen kind of guy. He's had experience both starting and as a long reliever. That's kind of a hybrid of those two roles. I think he would be the great kind of guy to start the game off because historically, Stephen Brault has performed better coming out of the bullpen than he has when he gets the ball to start the game. So bullpen Brault definitely, I think, is able to perform better. And Derek Holland, who, like I said, has had experience both starting and coming out the bullpen. I think the role of him pitching 2 or 3 innings or 4 innings or however long you want that first guy in the piggyback to go, I think that would be a perfect role for him. I know Shelton has him pegged to be our number 4 guy, but honestly, part of me is trying to think if maybe Chad Cole should take over that number 4 role, and then Derek Holland can possibly partner up with Stephen Brault as the piggyback starter number 5.
See, I think if you would have asked me before he had Tommy John, I would agree with you. But I think since he's coming off that major surgery, I think there could be some hesitation on Shelton's part.
True.
Because remember, Shelton wasn't anywhere near the Pirates organization when Cole was pitching well, right when he was in that rotation. And so since he is coming off of Tommy John, I could see why he's hesitant. Um, but I'm with you just because I've seen Cool more than I've seen Holland. I think I'd put a little more of my confidence in Chad Cool than I would
Definitely.
Derek Holland.
The other thing to note is remember this is only a 60 game season, so Uh, this dividing everything up, assuming that nobody gets hurt or anything, everyone's just going to be making 12 starts.
Correct.
So uh, it's it's already limited outings. If you're Chad Cool, you only have about 2/5 of the season to do. So uh, I think that works out really good for a guy like Chad Cool. I think that the piggybacking idea where he goes with Brault, I think I would be more open to that if it was a full 162 game season. But I think I'm confident in the 60 games of him going out there for 6, 7 innings every 5 days. Obviously, it would only be for, like I said, 12 starts. So, but if they want to be cautious about him and they want to make absolute certain that he doesn't wreck his arm again, uh, because you know how we've been with injuries and stuff.
Yes.
Um, I'm willing to make whatever accommodations we need to make sure that we see Chad Cool for as many games as we can. So,
Because and and because Tyone went out with TJ last year, I believe, correct?
indeed he did.
So he won't be back until 2021, and arguably you could say he's our best, at least most talented pitcher.
Definitely most potential. And
Yeah.
then of course Archer just went down. Don't think he had TJ, but
No.
he did go down, of course, over the COVID break with a major injury, missing the whole season.
And Luke Miley or
Yeah,
Miley's out for the season as well.
yep, of course, after yesterday. That's
Well,
another
no, it
unfortunate.
was a scrimmage game.
That's true. It was a scrimmage game. Really disappointing. He was actually looking kind of promising, especially as a backup catcher. But, Pirates got a Pirates. And then of course we get to the big elephant in the room here, uh, with probably our most talented player on the team. You could argue Josh Bell's above him, but a guy who I pegged in our last podcast as being pivotal, crucial for the start of the season will now not be there for the start of the season. Of course, I'm talking about Gregory Polanco, who, if you haven't been living under a rock, you've heard that he has indeed tested positive for COVID, and he will be out for a good while. He, of course, he's going to have to test negative twice before being cleared to return. But it's just a real punch to the gut. Kind of shoots down any semblance of hope you had at the beginning before.
It's a difficult situation, right? Because
Yeah,
news just broke before we came on that Brian Hayes has tested positive as well.
well, I mean, I don't know how much he would have factored in. I think he would have been a later call to call up. I mean,
Well,
obviously he's in the
remember there
taxi
is no
squad,
minor league baseball though.
of course, but I mean he's in the taxi squad, and it seems right now our third baseman is Colin Moran. But yes, that's definitely another issue, especially considering you want to try to contain it. You don't know who he got it from. Maybe you want to hope that nobody else gets it.
Before we go down that road, let's talk about the offense because the Pirates put up 3 runs in 7 innings. Well, obviously they play 9 innings, but they put up 3 runs. What are your thoughts on the Pirates offense?
Um,
At least from last night.
I mean, I saw flashes of what I know they can do. Obviously, putting up 3 runs is not something I want to be a normal occurrence, especially with how inconsistent our pitching can be. But I think it just takes a bit of time to kind of get in the groove of things. Obviously, like I said, you haven't faced a live pitching from an opponent in 4 months plus, so it's obviously a big adjustment for them. Um, But yeah, they put a solid inning together. I forget which inning it was. They scored two of the three runs. So
I'm trying to think. Was that the fifth?
I think it was either the fourth or the fifth inning.
Well, I'm talk. I'm gonna Google.
It was the fifth inning. You
Is
were
it?
right. And then they got their third in the sixth.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead.
obviously they out hit the Indians 10-8. Uh, putting up 10 hits is always pretty decent. Um,
Yeah, I think the big issue, and I think we agree with this, the big issue when it comes from the Pirates offense is going to be the long ball, right? Because I don't think going down, and it hurts without Polanco now for, like you said, an extended period. Where the home run's going to come from, right? You have Josh Bell. Um, Ozuna has some power. Moran has some power, but like our middle infield, I don't think is gonna hit a lot. I have zero confidence in any power coming from the catching position. Um, so I think my number one concern with the offense will be that home run power. And
definitely.
I think Brad Reynolds had a hit. Um, I'm trying to think if anyone else major got it. I know Osuna went hitless. I know that.
Yeah, that was a big blow. He was, of course, the designated hitter going into the game. The first time in the history of PNC Park in which the DH was used. So there's your trivia question answer right there, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, really a bit disappointing from Osuna. Um, but I do think, like I said, there were flashes. Um, ultimately, I think it came down to once again guys in scoring position. It's been a theme for the past 10 years now. With the Pirates, uh, the theme of being able to get hits and routinely out hit the opponent, and yet choking in those situations where runners are in scoring position. I don't know how I can't count how many times I've seen them have like the bases loaded, nobody out, and they don't score. Uh, in that situation, obviously, it'd be disappointing to just put up one run. And yet, how many times have we seen them come up empty in that situation? Obviously, that didn't happen yesterday, but it's just an example of a situation. And I think the Pirates fell culprit of that again.
Yeah. Um, so there's kind of I'm looking at the box score right now. There's some of the major players. Bell went 1 for 3. Reynolds went one for 3. Cole Tucker is looking to be a bench player. Most likely went 1 for 1. Moran had a really good day. He went 2 for 3. Craig went 1 for 1. Who's one of our top prospects. Even, Gonzalez, Eric Gonzalez, who's not known for hitting. I think we can all agree with that. He went 2 for 3. Stallings went 1 for 2. Um, so I think offensively, I saw some positives. But I'm with you. Our average with runners in scoring position has not been fantastic. Um, like I can like if you've watched, and I'm talking to the listeners, if you've watched Pirate Baseball consistently, you know how many times we had the bases loaded with 2 outs and can't figure out how to get a run home.
Nobody out, much less two.
No, I'm talking like with no one out. Yeah, bases loaded,
You
no
said
one
two
out.
outs though,
Oh,
but
okay, my
carry on.
bad. Yeah, I'm talking, bases loaded with no one out, and you don't get anyone home. And it's like, dude, just hit a fly ball to center field and get someone home. And like we just have had the inability to do so. And it's not like we have like an Andrew McCutcheon who back in the day was killer with runners in scoring position. Um, I think that's another area I would agree with you that we can really, really improve on.
Definitely. And that's what makes home runs so important also, obviously. Um, you know, most efficient way to score, as they say. That's another thing we've seen the Pirates struggle with. I think that's why I think Josh Bell last season was a breath of fresh air because I've always wondered why the Pirates don't sign more lefty pull hitters um, with that short porch that they have in right field. Um, the only ones I can think of at the moment are Josh Bell, who's a switch hitter. So half the time he's hitting into that big left center field, or Pedro Alvarez was the guy before him, and before him, the only guy I come up with is Adam LaRoche.
Garrett
So
Jones.
Garrett Jones too. Did forget about him, rightfully so. I mean, he certainly deserves a mention. Um, although he kind of fell short still on the dingers part of it. He hit 30 during the losing eras, but it seemed like once they started winning, he kind of sort of fell off the picture a bit. But yeah, obviously, I think we need more, especially considering I think we've hired or we've gotten more righty pull hitters, which is not smart in a ballpark like PNC. I can't tell you how many times we've gotten hitters whose power alley is right where that notch is in the north side notch in left center field. And the Pirates would have had so many more home runs if that notch wasn't so deep. It's the deepest part of the ballpark, 410 feet away. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
definitely what you were saying.
well, just kind of remember the Kansas City Royals back when
Right.
they won their World Series. They didn't hit a lot of home runs. They played a lot of really intelligent small ball.
Oh yeah,
I
and
mean,
which
it
is
can
weird
be
because it was the
done. You can be
American League.
successful without hitting 300 home runs like the New York Yankees, right? But I think you need to build your roster around doing that, though. And I don't necessarily know that the Pirates have built their roster around to play intelligent small ball, which at the end of the day is what they're going to have to do. I mean, they have Gerard Dyson, who is part of the Kansas City Royal World Series winning team, and he's familiar with small ball. But the bottom line is, I don't think we had the power to be like the New York Yankees or someone like that. So I think the Pirates is going to have to play small ball. They're going to have to play situational hitting. Um, but again, this like what I saw last night, I didn't hate. Like a lot of the main players, they didn't play all game, obviously.
Of course,
Um,
it's an exhibition.
it's an exhibition game. I mean, the Kansas City Royals, the Cleveland, the Cleveland Indians did start their ace. That is their best player. I mean, pitcher. Um, and they did get 2 runs off of him. So I mean that is a positive to get 2 runs off of Cleveland's best pitcher. Um, as you said, first time seeing a live pitcher that's not a Pittsburgh Pirate member. So I don't know. I think I was encouraged. Again, when we're talking, exhibition games is what we're talking about. Are you encouraged? Or are you discouraged? And I think I was encouraged. I was, from what I saw.
Yeah, I was too. The first 7 innings of the game, I was actually really confident in this team. Um, why don't we get to the part where the Pirates do piratey things?
Yes, we go from encouragement to
Uh,
discouragement.
yeah, I
You,
was really disappointed because obviously it's the eighth inning. We got our proper bullpen guys coming in, right? So we got Kyle Crick, who was one of my uh, lockdown bullpen guys I went over in my last podcast. I really thought, he could, step up and, just shut everything down. And obviously, like I said, It's just one game, and it's purely reactionary. But that was some straight up hot garbage from Kyle Crick in the eighth inning. Totally collapsing. Obviously, they loaded the bases. Then they had that 3-run double off the wall, and they added another after that. So going to the inning up 3-0 and come out of it down 4-3.
I mean, there's a lot to digest here, right?
Definitely.
Um, and it's ironic. We're gonna spend more on the last two innings, I swear, than we did the first seven, which is where all the good stuff happened. Um, man, I was with you on the last podcast where we were kind of talking about, because let's be real, it's no secret that the Pirate bullpen is our weakness, right? That's just the reality of the situation. And I was with you naming Kella, our quote unquote closer, and then Kyle Crick, our quote unquote setup man, as being our two best pitchers. And as we all know, again, unless you've been living under a rock, that Keontae Kella is not going to make the opening day roster. He is on the disabled list. Right? So that's an issue to begin with. We can talk about that later. So our closer, non-existent. Okay. So naturally, you move this setup man into the closing role. And I was watching the game last night, obviously. And they pulled up Kyle Crick's stats. And there was some stat I found interesting, Ryan. There's a big
Okay.
stat. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called ERA. Stands for
Yeah, I've
earned
heard of it a
run
bit.
average. Right? It's a newer stat. You might not have heard of it.
just a bit.
And I looked at his ERA, and the number that popped up, I had to rub my eyes, so I didn't think I saw it correctly. 4.96.
Yeah,
Our
that'll.
closer, or slash setup man, whatever you call him, has a 4.96 ERA. I
I mean,
was mind boggled. Say what you want to say before I
I,
continue my rant.
uh, I mean, yeah, that's not a good indicator, but I will chime in and I will say that ERA, particularly among bullpen guys, can sometimes be misleading. However, um, being a closer slash setup man, you're often taking the mound at the start of an inning, and you're typically not gonna inherit runners, so it's a bit truer and a bit more relevant. But carry on with the rant.
Before I carry on with the rant, I will say, but if you remember, um, when the Pirates had the Shark Tank, the best bullpen in the league, there was
Oh
no
yeah,
one. I don't
fun times.
care when who had a 4.96 ERA. No one did.
True. Not
And
even the sixth inning
right,
guys.
right. Just back in the Shark Tank days, no one had a 4.96. But back to my rant. So your closer has a 4.96 ERA. Awful, horrendous. Um, but I'm like, it's a new season. Let's see. And this, oh man, did he struggle with the strike zone? I mean, there were pitches that weren't even close. He was missing high and wide. He was missing low to the left. He was just erratic, right? I think he walked at least two people. And then when he was in the zone, it was a curveball down the middle. That ultimately got hit for the 3-run double. And as we said many times throughout this episode, you try not to hit the panic button, right? But if you look at his stats from like mid-August to the end of the season, they're not good. And that's just the reality, because I went and looked them up out of curiosity after the debacle of what last night was. and he was horrendous. Just put it frank. I didn't realize he was that bad, mostly because we began school and life kind of takes over. And the Pirates, let's be real, were not in it last year remotely.
Oh no.
So towards August, you flip as a lot of Pittsburghers see, you flip into football mode because we had the Steelers.
Yes, and obviously Penn's training camp had started by pretty soon after that, so
Right.
all
And
kinds of
you had
stuff
pick
going on.
football and just things like that, and the Pirates being nowhere near anything. A lot of people tuned off, including myself.
Yeah.
Um, but looking at his stats, I mean, he was horrendous. He really was. Just like I said, just putting it frank. So I'm concerned, Ryan. I'm concerned about Crick. Um, I really, really am. I don't know because I'm really concerned. Not only am I concerned about Crick, who replaces him if he can't perform? And again, going back to you don't have a lot of losses to play with, right? I'm not saying the Pirates are a contender because realistically they're not, right? Let's just be remove the Pittsburgh Pirates glasses. Realistically, this isn't a contending team, but most teams want to go out and win. Right? This isn't the NHL where you can tank and get Wayne Gretzky or Sidney Crosby. This isn't the NFL where you can tank and get Trevor Lawrence or Dan Marino. Right? It takes years to develop, as we've discussed in previous episodes, and especially it's going to take even longer without minor league baseball this season. You don't have a lot of losses to play with if you're trying to be even average.
Respectable even, yeah.
You're respectable, right? Not even talking World Series, talking respectable. Not the Cleveland Browns of baseball. That's what we're going for right now. We're going for not the Cleveland Browns of baseball. And if Crick can't perform, right? Who's your go-to without Keller right now? That's where I'm really, really concerned about.
Yeah, it seems like the dominoes just keep falling and it just keeps, it's like 2020 encapsulated on a sports team pretty much.
Agreed.
Yeah, so
So, what are your thoughts on Kyle Crick? I know I've said my thoughts.
yeah, I did not like what I saw. I'm with you. He was all over the place. He was if he wasn't grooving them, he was throwing them, you know, other side of the plate, wildly inconsistent. It was really frustrating to see, especially considering the impressive last couple of seasons he's had with the team. But uh, you hope that it's just rust coming off the long break. Obviously, they've been in practicing, training for a while, but uh, you never know. Maybe he just isn't used to pitching against opponents. Maybe it just has to take him a game or two to reclaim his form that he found a season, 2 seasons ago. Um, Frankly, I'm trying not to be too reactionary. It's one game right now. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Um, I want to wait and see what happens tomorrow and what happens on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. They've got
Yes,
another one back in
that's correct.
Pittsburgh, of course. I want to see how he does there before I make any snap judgments, you know. But yes, um, I can't point out any positives from that outing, which is never a good thing. But we just got to see if he can bounce back from it because that's the mantra of being a pro athlete. You gotta bounce back. Got to get up after you fall down. So you just hope Crick can get up again.
Yeah, agreed. And like I said, I think there are warning signs to be concerned about, but I'm with you. Let's try not to hit the panic button yet. But I
Not
think
yet.
I think as we go, like what this episode is, what are the positives and what are the negatives, I think it's clear that he's a negative.
Oh, definitely.
with signs of concern.
Hmm.
Um, then we go to Nick Birdie, who Nick Birdie is someone who has a lot of potential. Nick Birdie gave up a run last night and was shaky as well.
Hmm.
But I saw more positive things from him than I did Crick. Because there were some pitches that were just nasty, that were unhittable.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. Yes. I was seeing a lot of up and downs from him.
yes, his outing I would deem as inconsistent. There were times where I was like, "That's a nasty curveball." Where that is, because what does he throw? He throws fast, a slider, and a curve.
Yeah, I think he's pretty much a three pitch guy.
Okay, and that slider, when he has that slider going, whew, um, and like locating it beautiful, because he throws 99.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
he can locate a slider like
but
up that speed.
again, he was in the middle of the plate a lot. There were a couple hard hit balls off of him. But again, as we kind of discussed last podcast episode, um, he's had Tommy John. He had that brutal that looked like it could have been a career-ending arm injury. Um,
Yeah, last
Early last
season.
season in April. So this will be, you know, first time at least I've seen him since that horrific injury. I'll put that in a neutral, right?
Definitely. Yeah,
There was some
I'm
positives, there was
definitely
some
willing.
negatives, a neutral outing.
Yeah, I'm
To be
definitely.
encouraged.
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to cut Birdie a bit more slack than I am Kyle Crick. Obviously, I was just talking about how we don't want to be too reactionary about even Kyle Crick, but I think even less so about Nick Birdie because ultimately, I think the mistakes that he made are just kinks that need to be ironed out over these three exhibition games. Because, like we said, he hasn't pitched in over a year. Uh, Obviously you're going to see some rust when he goes back out there. You really, like I said, he's just working out the kinks. I'm confident that he'll have it dialed in. Uh, Hopefully by Friday. Obviously, you can't afford to have anybody not dialed in at the very start, considering the shortened season. But I think he'll be in the zone by then, by the start of the season. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot more hope with
I'm
Birdie.
leaning I'm leaning towards positive with Nick
Yeah,
Purdy, but I'm closer to the middle than I am towards the, guns ablazing kind of stuff.
agreed. So any last thoughts on the Pirates before we start talking Pens? Because we got a lot to talk about with the Pens as well.
Um, well, it just the fact that the game doesn't count doesn't mean that I still felt like crap after we blew another lead. Um, yep.
it's it's so frustrating. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you didn't cut me off. That was pretty much what I had to say.
Okay, but it's so because I'm with you. You have three starters pitched really well, and then the bullpen has the self-destruct button. You know, it's
Yep.
like, oh, we did really well. Where's that self-destruct button again? Got it. Oh, here we go.
There
Because be real, before the bullpen took over, Cleveland hadn't reached second base.
Very true.
You know,
Yeah, but you bullpen got a bullpen.
as you said, the Pirates got a Pirates.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up our Pirates coverage. So
Yep.
now we can move on to some hockey talk with the Pens. Obviously, we've been having intra squad scrimmages lately. Big news. This is yesterday, so Saturday. If you're viewing this on any day, but the day we upload this, which will be late Sunday night going into Monday. But anyways, Sidney Crosby leaving the scrimmage early, and unfortunately, we're all left hanging because the league protocols prohibit commenting or reporting anything about injuries or anything related to COVID. So we'll never know what this is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Um, I've been trying to do some research. Um, it seems like there's not a lot of concern over Sid's injury. I think everyone's hesitant because he had that hernia injury early in the season that cost him to miss about 2 months.
Oh yes, definitely. You can't afford to have anyone out long term because then they'll be
Right.
out for the whole thing. Especially a guy
Exactly.
like
So,
Sid.
so I think this is just a very I'm hoping. I'm hoping this is very precautionary. Um, but as you said, we had a first scrimmage to talk about on Saturday. It was live streamed on Twitter. I was at work, so I did not see the live stream. Um, but I think we got some things to talk about from the scrimmage. Again, we try not to overreact to anything. That's an exhibition game. When it's real thing, yes, overreact all you want.
Very true.
Um, but Matt Murray gave up 7 goals, and I'm concerned.
And again, this is why I'm more confident in Tristan Jarry. Right? Matt Murray, he has his moments. He has his really good moments. We saw what he did in 16 and 17, and I laud him for that. The entire city of Pittsburgh lauds him for that. But that was through 3 years ago. We need you to save the puck now, you know? And ultimately, when you have two goalies fighting it out for minutes, ultimately you just gotta go to the one that is able to do their job better. Obviously, I think it works out better that no precedent was really set during the season. Who the starter was kind of flip flop. There was a very, very big competition going on, and I think that's good for everybody when you have two competent goalies who are able to prove themselves that they can start, because then you're pushing the other one, and no matter what, you'll have solid goaltending. We saw that in 2017 with Murray and Fleury, and now in the regular season we saw it with Murray and Jarry. But yeah, if Murray can't prove that he could still save the puck the way he was earlier in the season, the way he has been over his Penguins career, then by all means, we got a guy that can step it up, Christian Jarry. So obviously, individually, for Matt Murray, I'm concerned for him. But for the Penguins goaltending situation as a whole, I'm not really concerned because I'm confident that Jarry is able to step up and fill his shoes. Not that his shoes were to be filled in the first place. Again, there's been a competition for the starter every year. But yes, concerned for Murray. No, not too much concerned for the Penguins goalie situation as a whole.
I mean, I just want to know what is it with the Penguins and goaltender controversies going into playoffs? Like it seems like every year in this stupid situation of which one's our goalie? Who really knows? Um, I I'm obviously concerned about Matt Murray. Tristan Jarry, the only thing I'm concerned about with him is a lack of experience. Um, because he's only been a full-time starter, never.
Yeah, he's been, like I said, he's been
Yeah,
competing with Murray this season. Other than that, he's
right.
either been a backup
That's what I'm
or
saying.
in Wilkes-Barre.
So the only thing I'm concerned about is he's never been the number one guy for the senior team, and it I don't know because we both know playoffs are a different ball game, and it's more of a different ball game now that it's that 5 game entry playoff thing, right? So again, we were kind of talking about Shelton, Red and the Pirates, trying to be respectable, that you don't have a lot of losses to play with to figure out like a bullpen issue. Well, the Penguins, are trying to get into the playoffs to win a Stanley Cup. So you only have two losses in that opening round to play with. It's not like a regular 7 game series where you have three to play with. You only have two here. So Sullivan, whether he goes with Murray, whether he goes with Jari, because historically, Murray's Sullivan's guy, because Murray was Sullivan's goaltender in Wilkes-Barre before he got promoted. And then when things got tough for Fleury, Sullivan was pretty quick to pull Fleury and put Murray in, right? So I think Sullivan has to get this goaltending issue, or not issue, goaltender, whoever he starts, he has to get correct because, like you said, I said, you only have two losses to play with, and you're going against the number one goaltender in the league and Mr. Price with Montreal.
Yes,
And
I'm. And
remember, Sidney Crosby's health, we don't know, and 9 players are missing, rumored to have been exposed to COVID. One of them being Patrick Hornquist. So there's a potential that you may not have Sid and you may not have Hornquist, depending on how things go. So he has to get that goaltending situation correct with the only two losses to play with, going against the number one goaltender in the league in Price.
yeah, I think that's obviously a concern. You want to make sure you make the right decision. But I do want to add that I don't think experience really matters in this year's playoffs, particularly. Um, I think particularly because this is a new environment for everyone, right? Yes, Murray may have started in the more playoff games before, but no one has ever started or played games in this situation, in this environment. Because normally in the playoffs, you're playing in front of a packed 20,000 seat arena. Obviously, this year, due to circumstances, that's not going to happen. But I really just think it comes down to form, especially considering I think form in practice will be more reflective of form in the real game because for once the environments are actually pretty much the same. You typically practice in an empty arena in front of absolutely no one. And now that will also be the case when you play games. Obviously, like you said, he's going to have to make the right decision and I think it's really going to come down on him, especially if we can't make it out of the qualifying round. He's definitely going to get some flack if he chooses the wrong guy, and I would indeed put some of the blame on Sully. Should goaltending be a culprit and a hypothetical loss? But at the end of the day, I don't know if I would weight experience in the playoffs the same this year as I would normally weight playoff experience in other years.
See,
But that's just my opinion.
this is where I'm gonna slightly disagree with you because I think it's valued even more. And I'll say that it's because I'd rather have a guy when you're talking an entirely new situation. Veterans, guys who have been there, know how to adapt to situations quicker. And that's just in life, right? Older people, people who are more wise, they know how to adapt when they face a situation they haven't faced before because they've had to do it before. You know what I'm saying? As to the young kid who doesn't know anything, doesn't necessarily know how to adapt properly all the time. Now, sometimes you have teams, you have teams who, who don't know how, you hear the quote, they don't know how good they are, right? They're so young, they don't understand the moment they're in, right? And you've heard that said about teams. But I think in a completely, like you said, new environment, new situation, I think this is when you have to rely on the vets, the people who can adapt more so than a player who necessarily hasn't even won a job yet. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm with you. Murray has struggled, absolutely. Jari has been probably more consistent throughout this year. Absolutely. I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, it's difficult for me as a fan to hand over the starting goaltending job to a guy who hadn't even won the starting job yet.
I certainly do see your point, and I think that's a really interesting take on this. Um, I think there's a case for both sides here, but at the end of the day, if I'm Mike Sullivan, yeah, the only time I would ever give the playoff experience edge is if Murray and Jari are relatively at the same level of play as each other. Obviously, if Murray continues to let in 7 goals the way he has, then yes, go with Tristan Jari. Um,
Agreed.
if Jari decides to, crap the bed the way Murray just did, then sure, Matt Murray will get the nod. I do think, like I said, I think it will mean a bit less, but I do think that there's still an advantage in playing experienced guys for the reasons you stated. Um, but ultimately only if they're level form wise.
Yeah, and what I would like to see Tristan Jari play against the number one guys because he played against the number two guys yesterday, and he didn't play against the number one. So I would like to see Jari play against the number one and see how he does. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
because
saying?
yeah, definitely. I would really like to see that, but yeah, I just found the lines because every article related to this scrimmage is talking about Sid for obvious reasons. But so going to the actual uh, skaters, uh, we got some lines, some really interesting lines. So at the start of the game, right? Obviously, everything changed once Sid got hurt, and well, we don't know what happened with Sid, but he left the game. We had Sid, Gensel, and Sherry on the first line, and then Malkin, Zucker, and Rust on the second line. And then for Team Gold, we had McCann, Marlowe, and Evan Rodriguez, and then Bluger, Czar, and Tanev. So those would be like your third and fourth lines. And then for defensive matchups, we have Dumoulin and Letang for Team Black. And the second pairing was Jack Johnson, Justin Schultz. And then for Team Gold, you had Marcus Pedersen and John Marino. And then our second pairing was uh, Kevin Suzman and Chad Ruedel. So, thoughts on the lines? You like them? Yeah.
The only thing I question is Evan Rodriguez on the third line.
Yeah, I think I probably want Tanev or Czar or even Sam Lafferty, who also subbed in onto the.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have Sam Lafferty than Evan Rodriguez
Yeah,
because
he was also
first,
taking some
go
reps
ahead.
on that line. So
Because sitting Gensler, you're not going to keep him. And then if you want to go Shiri, or they're obviously going with Zucker. Um, yeah, I'm not mad at that. The second line's fine. I like Marlowe on the third with McCann. That's fine. Like I said, fourth line I think's a terror. I think it's probably one of the deepest fourth lines in the league. My only adjustment would be Rodriguez. The defensive pairings, Latane Duma has been your shutdown pairing for years. Um, what was this? Schultz Johnson or Schultz
yes it is.
Schultz Johnson for the second pair?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. And then you throw Marina Riedel. I don't mind that at all either. I think that's probably the sixth best defenseman in reality.
So
Uh,
you're saying that Marino and Ruedel should be our third pairing?
there could be an argument for Marino Schultz.
Definitely. Marino Schultz.
I mean, I can see
Uh,
your argument. Jack Johnson maybe isn't a top four defenseman anymore.
no, I think I'd rather. I think I'd probably swap. Unfortunately, they're opposite hand. You can't just swap them. But yeah, he was playing with Pedersen in the scrimmage. For the record, I do believe Justin Schultz has a place in the squad, but
I
he
forgot
was
about
he was
Pedersen existed. Shoot. Okay, let me rethink because I forgot he was a person.
yes, Marcus Pedersen. The only person that really seems kind of out of the league almost is Kevin Suzman.
Okay, I
Um,
lied. This is what I would do. I would do Latang Dumo your number one.
I agree with that.
I'd personally go Schultz Pedersen two, and then
Marino
I'd
Johnson.
go Marino Johnson third.
So that leaves Ruedel as the odd man out here.
Yeah, because dude,
Yeah,
Ruido's not better than Pedersen.
yeah. Plus he's an opposite shot, so you need a so you
What
don't
would you
want it
do?
unbalanced in that regard. But yeah, I for the most part agree with those. Obviously, with you have seven competent defensemen and only six uh that you can skate with, put in the 20. So I think I would generically agree with them. I agree with your Pedersen Johnson switch. Like you said, Jack Johnson, while he has been the target of much criticism this season, he has been solid. During the course of the regular season, he was one of our only players that remained healthy all year. You and I have talked so often off the air, even before we started this podcast, about how everyone got hurt, but then Jack Johnson never did. Jack Johnson's the only guy that was able to, I think, pretty much stay healthy all
No,
year.
it was Jack Johnson and the guy. Uh,
Simone was here, but he was
not
still
only
here.
Simone, Galchenyuk.
Yes, Galchenyuk, who is gone now, I believe.
Like those three were probably our worst players, and neither one, and they all were healthy. Well, like Sid, Gino, Hornquist, Tang, Dumoulin, everyone we needed, Schultz,
Gensel.
Schultz, Kensel.
Yep.
Yeah. But
Obviously,
good.
yeah, it was really nice to see. I think was this the old Sid and the Kids line? Crosby, Gensel, Sherry. I think.
Yes, that
Yeah,
was
the
the
old Sid
same
and the
in the
Kids
kids
line
line.
back together. It's always nice to see.
Yeah, I would agree. So I think I'm interested to see what happens July 28th when we play an actual team.
Definitely, we got Philly, which is really big because there could potentially round of 16 matchup,
Yeah, true facts.
potentially depending on how the round robin goes, and if we don't pull whatever against Montreal,
As long
if
as we don't hit the self-destruct button.
yes, here's a quick question.
Yep.
Hypothetically, say we lose to Montreal and we get Lafreniere. How much pain does that alleviate? Would you still
So
be
much.
mad?
No, no, I wouldn't be. Because you're getting
Hashtag
a. Go
hashtag
ahead.
tank for Lafreniere. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Please don't.
Dude, yeah. Because then you're getting a, the first overall pick, which would be a centerman to be trained by Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin.
It'd be
So
like,
when they retire, you'd have another guy who potentially has all. I mean, he's number one pick. He has all-star talent.
yeah, it would be like if someone else got drafted number one overall and got trained by Mario Lemieux. Oh wait, um, Yeah, I think that would be really kind of cool passing of the torch moment. I mean, not to say that Sid's gonna retire any minute, but he's 33. He's gonna have to have somebody carry on that legacy. But yes, obviously, there's not that good of a percentage chance of that happening.
No. I'd much rather
Definitely.
win a Stanley Cup.
Oh, sure. Anyone would. Are you kidding me? Montreal would rather win a Stanley Cup than get Lafreniere. Any team you pick them.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah.
Except
Anyway,
maybe Detroit. They suck.
Detroit. We don't care about no cup. We just want another. We don't want another star player.
Because they're nowhere close to anything
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Unfortunate they won't get him. It'll be one of the teams that loses.
Correct. Dude, imagine if Toronto gets them.
Austin Matthews and Lafreniere.
With Mitch Marner.
Dang, they could be that would be set for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that would be really sad. Really good for my one friend who's a big Leafs guy. So
Sure. So I
yeah,
think that does it, right?
that's pretty much it. Just climbing over an hour in podcast time. Thanks guys for listening to us. Really glad that you spend your time just hearing us rant about Pittsburgh sports. Um, if you like this video, please remember to like us on YouTube and on whatever platform you're listening to us. If you're listening to it as a podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pittsburgh Sports Cast. We upload episodes there as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Comment below. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also tweet us at PGH Sportscast or email us, Pittsburgh Sports Podcast at gmail.com. Email your questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, whatever you want. We love to hear from you. But until next time, I'm Ryan,
And I'm Chris.
and thanks for listening to the Pittsburgh Sports Cast. Stay safe, everybody.